welcome to my channel. Well, I've been working on the retention of this Kydex sheath. This is a Holtzman's Gorilla D2 steel. Nice little knife. Now the problem with this one is it had ridiculously strong retention on it. So much so that if you used this as a neck knife and you went to pull, it felt like you were going to dislocate a vertebrae in your neck or something, man. It was strong. So the method I had used on the other one was to try to ramp, you know, the little dents in here. Just give them a little ramp. Well, as you can see, this one's very narrow and hard to get to. So what I was doing was carving on the G10. Now you've got to remember how this stuff works. And I want to say I'm not an expert on this. This is OJT on the job training. But when it comes out, you can see it's got to break this ramp right here, and that's where a lot of your retention is coming from. It's this angle right here. Now this is for pull out. This is the pull out retention. So if you reduce this slope here, basically I've been carving on G10. If you reduce that slope there, you know, just by carving like this, kind of making it a more gradual angle. I also knocked the height a little bit down. Now if you do this, you have to take your time, you have to be careful, and you have to check it often, because if you take too much off, you're going to have to get new handles or something, or a new sheath, or some other way of retaining it, because this thing relies on friction. I'm not worried about that too much because, like I said, this thing was way excessive on the retention. All right, so I would carve a little bit on it, you know. I'm going to put it in, and I pull it out, and this G10 tends to start turning black where it's rubbing. So I would use that kind of like an indication. All right, this is still white, so up here might be where I need to work on more than down here. And I just kept doing that, and then I did something that I wish I would have thought about before. This is a trigger pull gauge, right? So I just tied a little lanyard on the sheath. I'm on the knife, and I held the sheath, and I pulled it out. First time I did that, I got 5 pounds. So I'm seeing how much force it takes to remove the knife. Man, like I said, I wish I would have. I think this thing only goes up to 12 pounds. So it probably would have exceeded that, because I know this thing was excessively hard to get out. You could not thumb it out of the sheath. I can now. So I just wanted to pass that along, that if you ever run into this, I'm not saying this is the perfect way or the best way, but it worked for me, the method that I'm using right here. And now this knife is usable. This sheath is usable for me, because if I gotta take 2 hands and yank and pull on this thing, or if I only have 1 hand and I go to yank on it and it damn near snaps my neck, there's something wrong, you know. This has still got, it's not rattling, it's got plenty of retention. There's no way this thing's just going to fall out on its own. Now, I'm not going to leave this lanyard on here. This was just to test the pull of it. And I also want to thank an anonymous donor who sent me this trigger pull gauge. The thought was that I might use this to measure the pull of a knife, but you have to set up a little jig. You have to set up something right here and put it in a vise And I haven't found a little thing, you know, most of the time a nail nick is only on one side. So I'd have to make some kind of little attachment, you know, with a little loop on it and everything. But that's a possibility. You could actually measure the pull of a knife. Now, I was using this case, and I was using a Warncliffe, and I am surprised at how well it's holding an edge. And occasionally when I was carving, I would bump into the D2 of the knife. You know, I would be sitting here and it would go past, you know, punk, and it would hit it right on the blade. And I'm not getting any, I'm getting a little bit of dulling, but I'm not getting any edge roll. I'm not getting any chipping. So I was watching, you know, I was just trying to be a little bit more careful with it. And but this is, I'm watching the rust shooting trial, and this gave me something to do while I'm doing that, you know, just sit there and carve away. And this is not gonna, you know, the knife still feels the same in hand. I'm not affecting it in that way, but it's much easier to get out now. And you can hear that click there. I mean, it's not gonna just fall out on its own. Now, if I kept doing this, you know, eventually I would get to the point where it would fall out. So there you go, just a little quickie there, just to show you that that's one way that I did it on fixing the edge retention. I mean, the sheath retention of a knife. I'm not saying it's the best way. Some people heat it up and move it, you know, or maybe if you had a Dremel tool or something, you could do it faster. But like I said, I don't want to take off too much material too quickly. I just wanted to do it like that. And yeah, this is a great little knife. It feels great in hand. So there you go. Hope you found that useful. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.